There has been a nuclear accident in the Soviet Union and
The nuclear power station disaster in the Ukraine.
Nuclear reactor meltdown.
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
The disaster.
Disaster.
Radiation.
Radioactivity.
How safe is nuclear power?
There's this idea that nuclear power is dangerous. People say it causes cancer, kills wildlife, and that the plants themselves can even explode. In a survey I conducted, a majority of people said that they wouldn't want one built near them. Well, what if I told you there already was? The Fermi 2 power plant employs around 850 people and is the largest source of Michigan's carbon-free baseload power. Baseload meaning always on. The NRC, or Nuclear Regulation Committee, says that if a meltdown were to occur, the effects of the radiation would affect a radius of up to 50 miles. So how far away are we? Well, in Rochester Hills, we are only 48 miles away from Fermi 2. People might think that's scary, and I don't think so. So to prove that it's not, I drove 1 hour to the closest nuclear power plant to us. It's actually in Monroe County. As you can see, I'm not being affected by any radiation. There's actually no difference in the amount of radiation I'm receiving right now than I would anywhere else. What I meant to say here is the difference in the amount of radiation you receive is negligible next to a nuclear power plant versus anywhere else in the world. Here, there's actually no issues with being close to it at all. There's actually a lot of houses nearby, but people think it's dangerous still. Looks like there's smoke coming up the top. People think it's pollution, but it's actually steam. Basically, a nuclear power plant works like this. You have a bunch of rods that are sitting in water. This water is then boiled by these uranium rods that converts it into steam. This steam travels away through pipes, which leads to a generator. The generator is powered by a turbine spun by the steam, which in turn generates electricity. People think nuclear power is some dangerous thing that'll blow up or hurt everyone, but in reality, it's just another way of boiling water. Now, obviously, that's an oversimplification of things, but it still has people scared. In an article about nuclear power, the author writes, many analysts have attempted to explain the visceral hostility towards nuclear power, and the most common explanation is people link nuclear power with nuclear weapons. And data from my survey supports this. In the survey I took, 42.9% of people said they didn't even know how nuclear power was generated, but 53.6% saying they wouldn't want one in their city. Now, if you didn't know how a nuclear power plant works, why would you be against it? This is one of the problems with nuclear power, is there's not enough education on the subject. People just hear the stories about places like Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island, and they automatically assume the worst when it comes to nuclear power. I mean, all you have to do is look at the data. Nuclear power is the second safest form of power generation in the entire world, only behind solar. And that's not even it. Most of the safety issues concerning nuclear power could be solved by using nuclear fusion instead of fission. Not only are nuclear fusion reactors incredibly safe because the reaction can be stopped just by lowering the temperature, but the amount of power they output is also incredible. Attempts to create a sustainable nuclear fusion reactor have been unsuccessful, but with more people interested in the topic, it should be possible in the next few years. I mean, just look at this video. Every single day we're making new advancements. Only 1 month ago, the UK set a record with an output of 69 megajoules. If that video looked crazy, it's because it is. Nuclear fusion is the same process that goes on inside of the sun. That's why you can have a giant fireball burning in space even though there's no air. Here's a video of a scientist talking more about it.
Joining us now to discuss the implications of this achievement is University of California, Berkeley professor Dr. Peter Hostman. Doctor, thank you for being with us. Talk, if you could, about how significant you think this is.
Thanks for being on the show with you, Jeff. Yeah, I'm glad to talk about this. We did it again, I guess, right? So the scientists at Lawrence Livermore National Lab were really able to repeat and exceed, it seems, the power of the shots back in December. Now, what that means is that one can really plan for that, right? And one has all the parameters under control to repeat it over and over again as needed. And one can even get a higher energy out of it than originally in the first shots.
So fission is splitting things apart, which can be very powerful but very damaging. Fusion is bringing them together, which is much safer and potentially in all ways just better for everyone if it can be done right. A lot of people know what fission versus fusion is. Can you talk about the other words we've heard recently are fusion ignition? What is fusion ignition?
So in fusion, what you do is you take two elements, in this instance, deuterium and tritium, both versions of hydrogen, and they brought very closely together. In fact, they're brought so closely together that the repulsive forces are overcome. And so imagine like two magnets of the same pole putting together, and you're pushing them really hard together so they come together. Eventually, they will come together and become one new element, in this instance, helium. Now, in that wake of it, you change the weight of it. So if you weigh the deuterium and the tritium and you weigh the helium, they have different masses. And that difference is released in the form of energy. And so that energy is then released in the form of radiation and may be able to harvest it so we can make use of it going forward.
Now, a lot of you might start agreeing with me here, but maybe asking, why is this even important? I get that it's safe, but why do we even need nuclear power? Well, China and Russia have been building nuclear power plants in the recent years, and without the U.S. continuing to build them, we are at a very strong disadvantage to them, economically and physically. With more countries going to them for energy, the U.S. is missing out on potential customers and losing economic benefits. To address these challenges and maintain influence over nuclear safety and security standards, the United States must revitalize its nuclear power generation capabilities. In summary, while many harbor feelings of fear or stress over the safety of nuclear power, the statistics prove that it's less dangerous than people think. As we explore future possibilities in different types of reactors and power generation, nuclear power's importance must not be understated. The United States must revitalize its nuclear power programs in order to stay in competition with Russia and China, and failure to do so will leave them at an economic disadvantage. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you leave here with a more positive opinion on nuclear power.